And if so, is muted better or worse than what happened last night? I'm seriously interested in a poll about this. Also, I would like to, okay, I would also like to know why there's not a really good audio preview feature on these broadcasting softwares, because it's like, you know, if I plug in my headphones, you know, it's not necessarily gonna give me in my ear what you guys are hearing online. And why is that the case? Because it's really a pain in the butt. So what I was saying while I was muted was, welcome to the Beading Dreams Torch Thursday stream. I definitely have some serious Christopher Lloyd hair going on right now. But we're doing this project, Halo Ring. This is a repeat project, so if you've been hanging out on the Beading Dreams stream for a while, this may be a familiar project to you, but it is one of my favorites. I really, really like this ring. This is a really fun way to set a brilliant cut stone. And also, as one of my clients just observed when I showed her the sample, like, you can see you're covering up an absolute minimum of the stone, so you can not only see the, you know, the top, but you can also see the pavilion of the stone, which is pretty cool. And then since it sits up a little bit higher, the pavilion of the stone is not jabbing into your finger, which is also a plus. So let's talk tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial. It's a soldering tutorial, so of course there's a lot, including all of your torches and whatnot. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. So as far as supplies go, you're gonna need some sheet silver. I've got some 24 gauge sterling silver here. You can see that I've marked it as such, because I can never keep track, so marking mine with a Sharpie is how I work. I'm gonna need a stone, and I've got a peridot, brilliant cut peridot here, that's about 8 millimeters in diameter. I need some wire for the band of my ring. So this is half round on my sample. I actually have no 10 gauge half round at the moment, so I'm going to use some square wire instead. This is 14 gauge square. One second. BRB. Cool. So, yeah, so I'm using 14 gauge square because I'm completely out of half rounds, which I didn't realize until I was getting ready to teach this tutorial. So square wire it is. The cool thing about this is, first of all, that I need a little bit more light, though actually the light's pretty good for that, so maybe not. But the cool thing about this is you can do this with almost any type of wire. So you can do this with square wire, you can do it with half round wire like I did with my sample, or you can do it with actual full round wire. I'm gonna need some 16 gauge full round wire. That's gonna be for my prongs. Don't need a ton of that. As you can see, the prongs are not very long at all. You just need enough to hold your stone in. So, I mean, you really could get away with an inch of 16 gauge wire. I am a little bit more paranoid than that, so I've, you know, got a longer piece here. But seriously, this is a good stash buster. Like, you can do it with that tiny little bit of 16 gauge wire that you have hanging out in your work area that you're like, what the heck do I do with this? And you're going to need some easy solder and some extra easy solder. Now, as far as tools go, you're going to need all your basic soldering tools. So that's going to be torch, soldering surface, pickle and pickle pot, which I forgot to grab, so I'll go grab those in a minute. Flux brush. You're actually going to need both a hard and a soft soldering surface for this evening's project. The difference being a hard soldering surface is, as advertised, hard. A soft soldering surface is actually a surface that you can shove something into and it will stay, it will hold it for you. Okay, so this is a kiln brick, which is a soft soldering surface, and then I have my solderite, which is my hard soldering surface. Alright, I'm also going to need a disc cutter and a nice poundy hammer. For that disc cutter, I'm going to need a ring mandrel, steel ring mandrel, wood ring mandrel, plastic ring mandrel. All of these are acceptable. You need a tweezers for picking up hot things, file, definitely, almost always when we are doing something that involves soldering, files are in play, and probably some other tools that I've forgotten, and I will let you know what I've forgotten when I remember what I forgot. So we are going to start, by figuring out where our mouse is going to go and where our soldering surface is going to go, and then we're going to take our stone. Alright, there's our stone, and I'm going to figure out which size of disc is going to be best for my stone, because I need, on my little disc that's going to be my halo, I need enough space around my stone that I can put my prongs in there. So let's take a quick look at this one. Okay, so this one's not quite big enough. I really don't have enough room to put my prongs in there. So I'm going to go to the next size up, which is this one, and if I put my piece on there, that's maybe a little bit bigger than I would like, but that gives me plenty of room to put my prongs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my large punch and I'm going to set it aside so I know what that is, and then I'm going to take a small punch because we are going to punch actually a hole out of the middle of this disc. That's going to be kind of the seat for our stone. And when you're punching concentric circles, it's always easier to punch the smaller circle first, because then you still have the big sheet of silver, copper, brass, whatever you're using to help line it up. If you punch the large circle first, then you're trying to line up this, like, you know, I mean, large is relative. Okay, this is not very big. It's like a 1/2 inch round punch, and it's really difficult to line it up in your disc cutter. So I want to make sure that when I'm using my disc cutter that I leave enough space for my bigger circle. So I should be able to use this little corner here. Hashtag spoiler alert, these two circles are from where I was punching out circles of silver for next week's Torch Thursday project, which is going to be really fun. So I'm going to just draw myself a little guide here, just so that I don't accidentally punch that small circle like too close to the edge. So I mean, I'm literally, any art student in the world would be like, what are you doing? But yeah, so I just made myself a little guide, and I'm going to take my disc cutter and my small punch, which is this size on my disc cutter, and I'm going to just go ahead and pop that in there and try and sort of line that up. Pop my disc cutter in there. Now, if you've never used a disc cutter before, it's an amazing tool. I will say, however, that cheap disc cutters are not worth it. Like, I don't care if it's a $25 disc cutter, it is not worth $25. All of the disc cutters that are actually worth it are in the, you know, $100+ range, but if you cut a lot of circles, it really is worth it to get a nice one. How do I know this? Because I got a cheap one and it sucked. And then somebody very kindly gave Beading Dreams a nice one, and it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. They are so noisy. It's true. That was me this afternoon when I was making next week's class sample. I was like, I'm going to be noisy for a minute here. So speaking of, when I'm done with this little informational rant, you may want to turn your volume down. So your nicer disc cutters are going to have angled punches, like so. And that's the side that goes down. Okay, so this little blunt end here, that's not your cutting surface. This is your cutting surface. I've got my silver in there, and then I'm going to tighten down my disc cutter. So a lot of disc cutters will have this handle that you can use to tighten down. And then I'm going to take my punch, I'm going to put it down in there. All right, and now we're going to go, you know what, I'm going to be helpful to everyone, and I'm going to mute myself while I'm pounding on this. Helpful to everyone except for Heather, because there's no mute for the live and in-person sound. I got one more to go, but okay, so I pounded on that with my brass dead blow hammer, which is one of my favorite things ever. I have a little disc of silver. I'm going to save that. I can probably use that for something in the future. And what I've done now is I've punched a hole out of my sheet of silver. Now I'm going to go to what I determined was my bigger punch, which is this one here. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up so you can see, actually I can see better when I'm looking at the camera. So what you want to do is you want to center that hole in your field of view, tighten it down. Wow, that's not even close to center. Don't use the camera. The camera lies. Okay, so now I'm going to take my punch, I'm going to drop it in there, I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to pound this. I whacked my camera with my hammer, and then it said device not available.
Oh no.
I'm sorry, camera. It's okay.
Oh no.
Alright, BRB. Gonna keep hammering. What? Oh. Okay, so I know, right? Don't hit, see, the problem is if I do it over here, you can't see it. And if I do it over here, you can see it, but then I whack my camera, and then everything is horrible no matter what. So what I have here is this. So I've got, and it's not centered. Wow, Allison, good job. And by good job, I mean not a good job. Hitting it is better than melting it, only if it doesn't die. If it dies, it's pretty much the same. So, it's not dead yet. It's not even mostly dead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my file and I'm going to file this down. Since this circle was a little bit bigger than I wanted anyway, I can actually take my file and like get rid of some of that and have something closer to the size that I wanted. It's going to take me a little extra time, but that way I don't have to waste this silver. So your jeweler's files are going to bite on the push. That means that when you push them against your metal from tip to handle, you are removing metal. When you pull them backwards from handle to tip, you're only making noise. You're not actually doing anything productive. And if you have a good sharp file, this shouldn't take very long. Now you could also do this with a Dremel or a flex shaft and a sanding disc if you didn't want to do this by hand. So, on that note, hey look everybody, it's a sanding disc. Well, technically it's a sanding drum, but it's going to do the same thing. Oh, look what's already in my Dremel, a sanding disc. How nice is that? So let's go ahead and turn that baby on. Now, actually, we're going to turn that baby off for a minute because I want to talk for a second about ring clamps and the fact that they are drastically underused. Okay, so I can actually put this in my ring clamp and use my ring clamp to hold it, and then the chances that I will sand my own fingers off is so much less. When you put something in a ring clamp, make sure that wedge is in there securely. But now I can take this and I don't have to worry about it getting hot from friction. I don't have to worry about messing up my fingers or my fingernails. And I'm just going to go ahead and sand off that excess. Ring clamps save a lot of things from a lot of things. They're a really, really handy tool. And I can use this with my hand file too. So even if you don't have a Dremel with a sanding disc, like, you can still use the ring clamp. Okay, so I need to rotate it in my clamp a bit. As you can see, I need to get that edge there, and the clamp is in the way. So we're going to turn off my Dremel. So this is one of the reasons that I do love my flex shaft, is it has a foot pedal, so you don't need to really turn it on and off per se. You just, you know, press the gas or don't. Alright, so there we go. Now we are back down to a symmetrical shape. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill, which means that I need to change my bit in here, and I'm probably going to need to change my collet. So while I'm doing this, let's talk for a minute about drilling devices. So what I have here that I use on stream is a Dremel with a variable speed Dremel with a flexible shaft attachment, and that works for stream, but it's a bit of a pain because unfortunately Dremel's collets are not universal. So, you know, this particular collet that's in here only goes down so small. Now, since I'm about to put a number 52 drill bit in here, that's not small enough, so I need to change the collet to this one. So if you're doing a lot of shifting back and forth between drill bits and sanding discs, etc., it can definitely get a bit cumbersome. So if you're primarily going for jewelry use and you want versatility, I highly recommend a flex shaft over a Dremel. There's nothing wrong with the Dremel, it's just the flex shaft. Most of your flex shafts are going to have a universal collet that's going to go basically infinitely small, or up to about 1/4 of an inch big, and you don't have, it makes changing your bits just so much easier. Okay, so now I've changed my bit and my collet. Now let's go ahead and grab out my piece of silver. That is my halo that I have sanded down, and that one bit right there, I don't know that I like that, so I'm just going to grab my file And I'm just going to file that down. And this is another place where using a ring clamp would be helpful. But since I am stubborn, I'm just going to hold it in my hands. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and mark our drilling points. So when you're doing something like soldering prongs, it's so much easier to drill holes and solder your prongs into the holes than to try and solder your prongs on top of the metal. Also, it's so much more secure if you do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my piece of silver and my Sharpie, and I'm going to mark 4 points, 1 at each compass point. You could use a template for that if you were a little bit more precise than me. And now I'm going to use that drill bit that I just loaded into my Dremel to drill 4 holes. This is a size 52 drill bit that I am using. It is equivalent to a 16 gauge wire. And I'm just going to use my little organizer from my letter stamps as my drilling block in this instance. So again, turn on your drill. Make sure you're holding this firmly. And ideally you want to drill equidistant between the inner and outer surface. Also, ideally you do not want your piece to get stuck on your drill and like murderate you. But I realize it's not always the easiest thing. Wait, what? This may be bad.
Like, are you stuck and trapped?
No, my piece, my disc went
Oh no.
somewhere that way. It like,
That doesn't jingle.
no, it's wrong. Oops. I didn't hear it land. Is the thing, like it did, it went that way, but I didn't hear it land, which means it must have landed on the carpet, but where? What? Where is the,
Has
okay.
the little disc gone?
All right, pause for disc searching. I shall return to you in a moment with a ruling on whether we're actually gonna finish this project or whether I've completely screwed it up. Alright, I have unfortunate news from the Beading Dreams stream. It's gone. Like, it went that away, and then I think it went to Mexico. And so, therefore, we're not, because if I start again now, we're not going to finish this until, like, 8 o'clock, and I don't think I have the energy for that today. So, I am so sorry, but I am officially declaring this tutorial a failure. The good news is that this is a repeat, so I will see if I can dig up the original, if it still exists, and I'll post it on Discord for anybody who wants to watch. But yeah, I can't. Heather and I both looked.
I couldn't find it either. It just went.
Yeah, we cannot find. So I'm so sorry. But at this point, I'm calling it. Sorry, y'all. See, Lori has typewritten instructions. I can actually walk you. Hey, how about this, Lori? I can walk you through the steps verbally, if that would be helpful for the next 10 minutes, even though I don't have something to demonstrate with. So what would have happened had my disc not shot off into who knows where?
Are you in OFG?
You know, I've got 10 minutes left, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go through it anyway. So if my disc hadn't shot off into the wild blue yonder, what I would have done is I would have finished drilling all 4 of my holes. I would have cut short pieces, probably 1/4 of an inch, of my 16 gauge wire, inserted them into the holes, and then put it on my soft soldering surface and pushed them all down so they were flush with my disc. Then I would have fluxed it, put some solder on there, and heated it until the solder flowed, and soldered those prongs into my disc. Then I would have taken my square wire, I would have bent that around my ring mandrel to make the appropriate size of ring. Used my pliers to bend this kind of, you know, hourglass shape. And then what you're gonna do is take a file, and you're gonna take this, put it face down on your file, and you're gonna sand it or file it so that what you have is a flat surface on the top of your ring shank. Then I would solder that to my disc, which already had my prongs soldered into it. At that point, I would pickle it, and I would steel wool it, or I would tumble it. Then I would set my stone into my little cavity there, and I would cut my prongs short, bend them over my stone using either a pliers or a prong pusher, and then I would go ahead and file them smooth at an angle like so. And that would be how I would finish the ring. So hopefully that's the same way I did it last time. But yeah, so sorry about that, y'all. I got nothing for you except, like, oops. That's all I have. But thanks so much for hanging out with us on the Beading Dreams Torch Thursday stream. Don't forget tomorrow's Zoom Crafty Cocktail Time. Yes, where we can hang out and drink cocktails, do our crafty stuff, and have lots of fun. And then Saturday we'll be back with this project. This is a Kumihimo. Lori's right. What you want to do before you bend the prongs is you want to notch them with a triangular or a square file so that they will hug your stone better. So tomorrow's Zoom, Crafty Cocktail Time. Saturday we're going to be back with this project. This is a Kumihimo braided project and a live merchandise sale. So that is the abortive Beading Dreams stream for this evening. I'm so sorry, y'all, but thank you so much for everyone who tuned in to watch me. And again, I'm sorry that I don't have a project anymore to even work on to show you how to do it. But we will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dreams Saturday, with that Kumihimo project, and I am working diligently on new projects for next week. So have a great night. Hopefully I will see some of you on Zoom tomorrow, and hopefully I will see most of you back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, Saturday night at 6 p.m. for that Kumihimo project, followed by a live sale. Have a great night, and we will catch you later. Bye!